Namaste. Welcome to the penultimate session of the Global Festival of Oneness organized by the Advaita Academy. Let us start with a prayer. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankara Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. We are very pleased to have with us Gloria Arieira, who will be talking to us on the subject Advaita and Management. Before we go on to the talk, I'd like to introduce the speaker. Gloria ji came to India at the invitation of Swami Chinmayananda ji to study Vedanta in a traditional Gurukulam. After she was studying here till 1978 and returning to Brazil in 1978, she has been teaching Vedanta and Sanskrit in Rio de Janeiro and as well as in Portugal. Her dedication to the tradition has led her to translate Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads and several other Sanskrit texts into Portuguese. She is responsible for publishing Swami Dayananda Saraswati's books into Portuguese from her publishing house, Vidya Mandir Editorial. And she is the author of two other books in Portuguese language titled Millennial's Prayer and Puja, the Performance of Vedic Ritual. We are very pleased indeed to have Gloria ji with us. Namaste, Gloria ji.
Namaste, Amaral ji. Can I start?
Yes, please.
Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahanao Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvina Vadhitamastuma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I'm very honored to be here today in this the Festival of Oneness and be invited by Advaita Academy. And it's a very special festival because it has Adi Shankara at the head of it. And Adi Shankara makes all the difference in our lives as we study Vedanta. All the gurus in learning and studying Vedanta are very important, but Adi Shankara is the most important because everything that we study, all the books, all our Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita, they all come so clearly to us, to our gurus, and from our gurus to ourselves, because of Adi Shankara. He is the most important guru because he took all the texts, all the pramanam in our shrutis, and have put into a bhashyam, an explanation, a commentary, which became so clear and so available for everybody that up to today, everything that we study in Vedanta has its origin in Adi Shankara. And so as a student of Vedanta, we have, there's no other way, we have to develop this appreciation, this love for Adi Shankara, because his importance in our life is the most. It's one of the great moments in my life when I went with a group of students to visit Adi Shankara maternal home in Ernakulam, and to sit on that small room where he was born, it was something like really receiving his blessings in the form of clear understanding and knowledge. So he is present so much in our lives as a student of Vedanta. And so the festival being honoring Sri Shankara, it's an honor for me to be here talking on this occasion. I went to India to study actually in 1974 and study for a few years with my two gurus, Swami Chimayanandaji and Swami Dayanandaji. From both, I have learned a lot, actually everything I know. In my whole life, I owe to them and to Sri Shankara and Shruti. But being from Brazil, I think it gave me something in the special way to understand the tradition, because everything that I saw there in India, in the studies, every word in Sanskrit, everything was something I have never heard before. So I wanted to know not only the translation of the words, but I wanted to understand the heart of each word. Not how the word would be translated, but what it really meant. And I think that was very important for me, because when I came back to Brazil, I had the value, the desire to communicate the heart, the spirit, the heart of the Vairagya Dharma, of Vedanta, and not only translate texts or translate words and speak in Portuguese. So in a way, everything was very different from me. It's a different culture, different knowledge, but at the same time, which is not good, because when you're born in the culture, then you have an advantage. But then at the same way, for me, it was very important, because everything had to be understood, analyzed, and understood very deeply, so that I could follow this understanding, this study. So we come to see, I have seen that in our life, everything being so dual, so Dvaitam, we have always two sides for everything. We have something that is really very good and something that is not as good and gives us some problem. But to put together, we have our life, the beauty of our life. And one of the most important idea that Vedanta has given is the analysis of satta, of reality. I think that becomes the basis for our living and the basis for the human life. Because you have to understand through our studies that you have three realities, order of reality. So Paramarthika Satta is the absolute. So when you understand that there's something which is absolute in the world, something that really exists always, that doesn't change, that's immutable. To understand that, and to understand Brahman, which is this absolute, which is really what I am, Atma, is something that is a blessing by itself. because everything seems to end, to finish, to disappear. And here we are to understand that there is one reality which doesn't change. So if we understand there's one reality that doesn't change, we can nicely accept that there are other things that changes, and that's inevitable. There's nothing we can do about it. So one reality which is absolute is there, always present, and that is myself. We have to understand. But at the same time, that's not the only subject matter in Vedanta. It always also says that there is a Vyavaharika Satta, which is a relative reality. A relative reality, that means the whole world, that is also always changing, and it's dual. They have always these two, and minimum two sides. There is cold and there is heat. There is up and down. There is sukha dukkha. There is many things which are very happy and unhappy moments. So this is the world. And when we come to understand that, we see there's no way of having only one side without the other side. So understanding this reality is most important also in our lives. And to understand that there is a pratibhasika satta, that is really something also. So someone can say, but that is all over the world. Everybody knows that. No, it's not true. If you organize in such a way to understand there is one reality which is absolute, it doesn't change. There's a relative reality, which is the whole world. And there's a subjective, which is true for oneself. Because each one of us looks into a reality in one way. So with my background, I see it in this way. I interpret the world in this way. But there is a relative reality, which we cannot forget. We cannot negate. So in that sense, I find that the most beauty is understanding not only the highest reality, Vedanta talking about you are Brahman and you have to know that, and that's it, which many spiritual lines of understanding speak about. Oh, you are this and you have to know that, and then you can be free. But in the way that Vedanta talks about the relative reality and the subjective, in that way, we can understand how to have a style of life, a way of life that can bless us. Because only the understanding that I am the absolute Brahman, what can I do? If I have only to understand the absolute nature of myself, there's nothing I can do. I have just to sit and be this absolute Brahman, nothing else. And of course, you will think that the best solution, moksha, is just to be fully in samadhi. But then life is going on. There's a person that has to live. So how to live with the understanding of the absolute I am and the relative person that I am, and how to fit in the relative with the subjective, my own ideas about things. So that is really great. Sri Shankara has a way of doing this understanding in his bhashans. And it says, in the Paramarthika Satta, you are a karta. You do nothing. Brahman, that is a karta. But as a human being, we should learn to live a life which is called karma yoga. In the Gita, is so beautiful in the second chapter, the way Sri Shankara explains this in his Bhashya. So if we have to understand how to live our life, we have to be able to manage ourselves. Manage ourselves is only the relative person. It's not the absolute. The absolute is immutable. So manage is a nice word. It's a very modern word. In a sense, very modern word. But it's there in our Shruti. It's there in the way of Karma Yoga. It's just management is Karma Yoga. And so many times we have studied and learned that Karma Yoga is not a life of control. It's not that you have to control your mind, your body, your desires, your actions. But you have to understand. That is also a beauty in Shastra. That the sadhana, the astra, what we have with us, to be able to live our life properly and happily is Viveka Vairagya. Viveka Vairagya is what we have to make use of. Viveka in the sense that we have understand things. We have to understand, to question, to understand. And to understand, we have to understand what kind of problem we have. Paramartika Sattva doesn't have any problem. So the problem I have is either Vyavaharika or Pratibhasika. Is it really relatively a problem that I have? So if I break my arm, I have a relative problem. How am I going to deal now for the daily Vyavahara with a broken arm? Well, that is a problem. But if I think that my body is ugly, too fat, too thin, that is very subjective. That is not a real problem. That is a subjective problem that I see myself in a way that I don't approve, that I don't like. So first we have to understand what kind of problem we have. We have to understand the nature of the problem. That's the first step for management. Understand that I have created for my own view this problem, or is it a real problem that I have to face? So that is the Viveka, understanding. Viveka in so many ways. But here in our life is to question, to reflect upon something, to think what kind of problem I really have. Is it a problem in the world? Or is it something that I am seeing in the wrong way? As I am interpreting in the wrong way. So if I'm interpreting in the wrong way, then you have to understand that that is false. So really what we have to manage is this person, this human being, this person living life. So management now is clear. It's not on the subject way because it's subjective. I have to understand that it's subjective. It's not on the absolute level because that doesn't have any problem. The absolute doesn't have any problem. So only the relative person dealing with people and things in the world may have a problem. So when we reduce the problem to the human being that I am, then things become more easy to deal with. Then I have to see that where is the problem? Where is really the problem? The problem is really in our minds. And then where in the mind? Well, in my desires, in my actions, in my values. That is where the problem is. So I have to understand the person as a whole, the whole person that I am, because I have to manage two things. I have to manage myself, and I have to manage the relationship with the world. And to manage my relationship with the world, I have really to manage only one thing: myself, my mind, my understanding, my values. That's the only thing we have to manage. And to manage is not to control, it's not to be used force, because force is something that doesn't really work. Even in the education of children, if you force, you say, you cannot say this. When you're not around the person, the child will say. So because you're just forcing, maybe afraid, and then he'll just not do what you're saying. But that's not a change inside. So to change inside, to be able to manage ourselves, we have to understand our ragas and dveshas, what we like, what we want to go for, and what we don't like, we want to run away from. And we have to understand how we react, how I react in the world. So to understand this full person that I am. In all ways, we have to see ourselves in this dual world. To be able to manage ourselves, we have to see ourselves as a whole person. If we don't see ourselves as a whole person, then that becomes very unjust, because you see only one part. If you see only the good part, then you think you are great. If you see only the part that you don't approve or others don't approve, then you think you're a very insignificant person. You look down upon yourself. And that is all that Sri Krishna says in the Gita, chapter 6. He says, if you want to live a life, a meditative life, if you want to really be a dhyana yogi, number one, it's not to sit down, it's not to choose a good, powerful mantra, it's not to find a guru for yourself, it's not to do this and that. First, number one, make yourself be a friend to yourself. Don't let your mind be in shatru, ari, to yourself, an enemy to yourself. You have to be a friend. You have to be together with yourself, understanding, not in the positive way, in the negative way. It doesn't work, because the world is not either one or the other. But you have to look at yourself as a whole person. And you will find very many qualities which are really great, and so many other things which you can always improve upon. But when I see the whole, I understand the person that I am. When I see only one small window of what I am, what I did, what I am, my history of life, then I lose the value for myself, the respect. That is himsa. That is main himsa. To look into something from only one window, only one view, and not the view of the whole, is the greatest injustice one can do. That is real himsa, for oneself and for the other. Because the world is complex. It's a full, beautiful world. And each one of us is also a full, beautiful soul, a beautiful being. And we have to see this whole and understand there are going to be easy, beautiful things in ourselves and some others that we have to learn and transform. But we can see ourselves as this big, beautiful being. Not only one part, because it's really unjust to look into things and people, and especially ourselves, from only one part of our history, of our values, of our choices in life. We have to see the whole person, the whole situation also. We have to look into the world fully. So this is not so good, we may think, but it always brings something good also. So I take the whole thing upon myself and will enjoy what is easy and will try to learn from what is not as easy. So to understand the whole world as a whole, it's the only way that we can deal with the world properly. So if we tell only a single story about ourselves, only one part, then you cannot even manage yourself because you're only highlighting what is something very good and not so good. So managing, you have to see the whole person and be able, and when we understand through this reflection, this Viveka, then when we understand, then comes the other part of these two ways of managing, which is Vairagya. When you understand what is not so good, that I thought it was good, but now I see that it's not so good, I can let it go. Vairagya, I can let it go. I will only let go of something which is part of my life and I see as good, even though everybody else doesn't see as good. I will only give up when I understand that it does not have the value I thought it had. But when I see it doesn't have that value, then very easily I just open and let it go. So to manage, we have to understand. We have to really understand that being part of this whole dual world, our personality, our life will be also very complex and dual. There are few things which I will be always good. There are few things that I can improve upon. So this understanding makes my life more easy to live, to be managed. And to be able to manage our lives, we have to be able to manage ourselves. If we don't manage ourselves, how can we manage others? It would be a big confusion. So to manage ourselves is to understand the person we are, the complexity of our lives, to develop this way of life of reflecting upon things, understanding the problem, and trying for a solution. Understanding and doing whatever we can to change, but always through understanding. That is perfectly what Karma Yoga is. Karma Yoga is to look into our own mind and see our desires, our reactions, and to understand about them, where they come from, and be able to change at each point in our daily life. It's not one action. Karma Yoga is not doing something, but it's understanding at each moment in our life, day after day, to understand situation and choose better. Choose with understanding is to choose better. And be prepared for whatever comes. When it comes, then we deal with it. So that is Karma Yoga and the management of ourselves. Then, if that is a way that we choose to live, then all our relationships with the world will be easy to be dealt with. Because we focus on clarity. So we see the problem. Seeing the problem, you can do the best you can. So that it becomes very easy, even though the problem may be complex. But it's clarity in our mind that makes us relax. The problem may be very complex, but then if I understand the problem, then even though I cannot do anything, but still there is clarity. What is the clarity? I don't know what to do. I think there's nothing that can be done. But that's enough to relax. It's a problem that is beyond myself. I don't know how to solve this problem. Okay, then I don't solve it. But that clarity makes us relax. It's not a perfect world outside that will make us relax, but it's the understanding, our understanding and our accommodating the person that we are that makes us relaxed, manageable, to manage ourselves and our problems in the world and the others. It depends upon Viveka, Vairagya, and understanding the nature of the problem. So that is, understanding is management for sure. And taking that into our daily life, it becomes, in the language of Vedas, it becomes a life of Karma Yoga at all points. There's a very a beautiful image that, of course, I am from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, which is a city which I could always compare to Mumbai and Chennai. Both cities I always liked a lot. Well, the ashram that I studied was in Mumbai, in outskirts. At that time, it was completely outskirts, Powai Park. It was completely Sandeepani Sadhanalaya. So it was completely outskirts of Mumbai. Now it's just there. As the city became big, Powai Park is part of the city. But anyway, Mumbai is a very beautiful city. And Chennai also. And the sea is there. So that is the comparison with Rio de Janeiro, where I was born and have lived all my life. And we have here, these birds that are called seagull. In Portuguese, we call them gaivotas. And they are really special birds. They're birds because they fly, they have wings. And, well, chickens also have wings. Ducks, other small flying birds also have. And what is so special about seagull? They are special. We see them daily in our sky in Rio de Janeiro. And they can fly alone, and they can fly in groups, both things. You see them all together early in the morning, where you see one seagull going here and there. They will be happy alone, flying. They will be happy in a group also. But flying in the group is very different from any other bird flying, group of bird flying. Because the seagulls, there's a whole study on them. That's how I know. But then they fly as the birds fly together always in a way that they will be able to fly and be together. But there's not one leader. One bird, one seagull takes the leadership, and the others are following. Then at one time he goes away from the leadership and goes in the behind the group of birds. It's also a very important position. So they go, and another one assumes the leadership, and they fly so beautiful. And there's not one only leader, and neither in the front, neither in behind. But they always change places, and they go around like that. So there's no competition on who is better. And very well, they change places. Nobody has to say you have to do that, but they accommodate that situation, and they're having a lot of fun for sure. And then one is leader and the other one is leader. And they go on and change the places, and there's a beauty when we look at them, and the harmony. And that seagull, like so many things in nature, teaches us so much. Because to live in harmony, being able to manage ourselves and our world around, we have to learn that each of us has something to contribute to the happiness of others. And the others will have something to contribute for our own happiness, for our being in peace, tranquility. We get inspiration from the others. The others get inspiration from us. We learn so much in this relationship with the others. But at the same time, we can be alone with ourselves. We can see people in sometimes they teach us so many things. They are in the leadership because in that they're better than I am. But there's so many things in which I can be better, so I can be an inspiration for the others. So I take the head part, and the other are flying here in other subject matter, then others will be the leader. And that doesn't make me better or worse, neither the people better or worse, because we have one common thing, our humanity. We are all human beings. So as human beings in this Vyavaharika Satta world, we have to all contribute for the happiness of the others, and let the others contribute for my happiness. Problems will come for sure. We can get, if somebody knows more than I do, I can get their help. If I know more, I can contribute. And in this way, parasparam bhavayantaha, we get the full life happiness, contributing to one another. Being able to manage ourselves, being able to manage the world in the sense that we can live in harmony with all other people. I may not choose to be directly connected with people, but I can accept them as they are and manage my life in this way, understanding realities, the relative reality. But at the same time, knowing that I am free. I am free and complete. And because of that, I can contribute to the world so that the whole world can be, for sure, a better place for all of us. So management and not control is born from understanding, from letting go things which are not really important, but we up to now could not see, and focusing on contributing to others. Because in that way, we'll also receive from others and make this world a better place for all of us to live. Because with Antakarna Shuddhi, with a mind that can be managed, that is managed, life becomes very easy to live. With a confused mind, unmanageable person, it is very difficult to live. So that is the most important that we can understand, even for our daily relationship, is understand the kind of problem we have. If the kind of problem is what I'm searching is for what is immutable, I'm having a problem with the relative world, or is it because of my subjective view of the world? When I understand this, with understanding, life becomes very easy, for sure. Management in daily life, coming from Vedanta, is the greatest blessing one can get to live life. So our gurus, and especially Adi Shankara Acharyas, are our most precious blessings so that our daily life can be lived. Thank you. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you very much, Gloria ji, for that wonderful session and to very clearly explain to us how managing oneself is the way to manage one's life, and how Advaita really teaches that in very simple ways. And that was a wonderful session. We have some questions and we'd like to take them. Okay, Malatesh has a question. He says that that each person goes through different phases of life, like being a teenager, a family person, and an old age. Please explain what aspects of karma yoga can be adapted to these phases for effective management.
Well, our lives really have different changes, different times in life, from childhood, then adult, and then later in life. But if we take the problems will be very relative to the time of life that we are living. But to have a problem is the same. To have a problem is the same. The problem itself may change, but to have a problem is the same. So in Karma Yoga, we try to understand the nature of the problem. Is it a relative problem in the sense that it's around me and it belongs to the world? Or is something on my way of seeing things that is not proper? So in that way, we can find out how to manage. It's if we get too much stuck to the problem itself, we don't come outside to analyze it, then we cannot solve it. But if we look from outside, not stick into us, then it becomes easier to decide.
Malatish had another question. He says, business executives are under stress to achieve targets and earnings. How can Karma Yoga help them?
We have, of course, there is a lot of targets put in our life by ourselves and by other people also. The best way is to organize these targets and find out what is most important in the sense that it's number one to be solved, and what are the other things that we can do later on. So we have to organize our minds to understand the priorities and what is secondary, what can be left for tomorrow, and what has to be done now. What is connected to this one? So I must solve this problem first. So organization is the way to manage. You have to organize what is the main, and what are things that I will not be able to do. So I just put here, and maybe somebody can take it for themselves. So we have to see also how much we can take and how much we cannot take, and organize the problems. So organization is the best way for management.
Mahesh Aswani has a question. How can Pratibhasik and Vyavaharik Satya be reconciled? Because very often they are at odds.
That is true. They are very much connected. Not only they are connected, sometimes they are mixed in such a way that we cannot see. So in our Taittiriya Upanishad, in first chapter, the teacher there says, when it's too much mixed up in life and we cannot understand because we are too much mixed up with our emotions also, if we cannot organize ourselves, then we should look for somebody who is not connected to the subject matter, who will gain nothing by giving his own ideas and choices, and try to see the problem through somebody else. Then maybe it will make more sense if we can have another person from outside help us think. The choice is ours, but we have to, sometimes we are so much connected into that, like a wool, all mixed up. When we sit with somebody who helps us to think, then things become more clear. They're not solved, but they become clear.
Mahesh, also wanted your email, Gloria ji, so if you can share in the chat group or you can read it out to us, that would be very helpful.
My email is vidyamandir 33 at hotmail.com.
Yeah, that's perfect. One of the questions is also that while human beings and their problems are pretty much universal, how can people who are not born in this knowledge tradition, how can they access this Advaita knowledge and how can they understand it?
Well, everything that Vedanta says, can be understood by any human being, because the problem is really a problem of the human being. So first thing we have to understand that we have a problem, what kind of problem, and how can we solve that problem. So when we talk, like when I talk in Portuguese to the people in Brazil or Portugal, and because the language is the same, people can understand, they can relate to the human problem. So Vedanta is something that will communicate to any person in any part of the world at any age. The thing is, the person has to be able to communicate in the language, not only in the language, but in the way that will go through the other person. So that becomes the only problem. The Veda doesn't have the problem, the gurus have. The Guru may have in communication. But Vedanta itself, if it is clearly communicated, it will go through and will help anyone in their lives.
A common misunderstanding or a common stereotype is that living a life of karma yoga makes one complacent, less ambitious, and which is a problem for those who are, our near ones, or a society which may have expectations from us. How valid is this criticism?
Less ambitious?
Yeah.
Is that less ambitious? Well, Karma Yoga is not about being more or less ambitious, because the focus is not on what we want, but is to understand the want. So everybody in the whole world has basically one want, to be happy. And we cannot give up this desire to be happy. But we have to understand what can make us happy. That is the point. Because usually we think another person will make me happy, fame will make me happy, money will make me happy. So this understanding that what we really want and how to solve this want, that is the main one. But Karma Yoga is understanding, and more than that, is to understand it's not to have desire, because that is impossible. If we don't have desire, you don't get out of bed. You remain there. So we have to have desires, but we have to have clear desires worked out on the direction of what we want. So it's not to understand that it's not fame, it's not money, it's not success, it's happiness. That is what we want. If we understand this, number one, then we can question if I will be happy through that. I will be accomplished, of course, but will I be happy? So we can deal with life better. And Karma Yoga is not to desire, not to do this or that. But so it's not to be less ambitious. Karma Yoga is to understand our reactions and our desires. So we can deal with our desires and our reaction in a more wise way. So ambitions doesn't have anything to do with it. We can be very ambitious. But if you have a clear mind and non-reactive mind, then you're Karma Yogi, even though you may be ambitious also.
Living a life of Karma Yoga is also leading a prayerful life and keeping God at the center of one's life. So what kind of prayers would you suggest to people who want to lead this sort of a lifestyle?
Well, Karma Yoga is, of course, an attention in our actions and reactions, but that will only be fully possible. Now, this is only an introduction, but that only will be fully possible if we understand ishvara. Without understanding the basic relationship of jiva, the individual, with ishvara, with the whole, with the total, then things will not be as easy as it seems, of course. Because this accommodation will only come if we see ourselves as part of a bigger scheme of things. So this understanding of ishvara is very important. But it's discovering, because ishvara is there and it's already part of my life, and because I am part of the whole. But I have to understand that, and I have to make it real in my life. And the way to be real in my life is if I bring ishvara to my life. Just like I have my sister, my brother, which is so evident to me that his reality being my sister or brother. So ishvara has to be so clear as that. It has to be there. When I do action, when I receive the result, when I relate to people, when I analyze myself. So in all that, so understanding ishvara. For that, I have to study, of course, but I have to include in my life daily a moment of meditation, a moment of prayers, because through prayers, through any prayer, I will understand, well, try to understand at that moment that connection which is there between the individual and the whole, and will make this connection more clear to myself. So I think the prayer, the kind of prayer itself, it doesn't make just much difference. The prayer has to have a meaning. So I can daily chant this Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. It's enough, because this Shiva, this which is the Mangalam, which is the whole, which is Ishvara, and Om Namaha, I'm giving my Ahankara, bending myself, understanding that I am part of this whole, which is Ishvara. So this, if I have any kind of prayer, which will make myself, help myself at that moment to understand what is there is Ishvara, I'm just part of this whole, it's enough.
You had also emphasized on Antakarana Shuddhi. What are the specific exercises or practices that one can do to get Antakarana Shuddhi?
Well, because Antakarana Shuddhi is a mind that is reflexive and has Viveka, and a mind that's not so attached to things, which can have Vairagya. These two qualities are important in our daily life. It's not one day I do this vichara and then the other day I just forget it and go on. But it's to bring these two things to our lives, to have the habit of understanding. Like the main value in our lives is to understand realities, to understand ourselves, to try to understand the other, to try to understand the situations that happen to our lives, which are not so bad and horrible, but they will bring something good also. So this understanding is a mind that values understanding and focus on the understanding, is a mind that's working on Antakarana Shuddhi, which has Antakarana Shuddhi.
I'll take one last question, and that is from Mahesh. And he's asking, can Vedanta solve the problems of hunger and poverty?
Vedanta can solve any problem if the person is ready to look into Vedanta. What really happens is that a person will become an adhikari, a mumukshu, will become somebody who is desiring knowledge only if he or she will have the artha kama at least a little bit solved. You cannot have hunger and thirst, because hunger and thirst will be the what is more prominent in one life. Like I cannot think of anything else if I'm hungry. We have to try 3 days, don't eat, and then you'll find out how your mind will go. There's no Antakarana Shuddhi. You're just urgent to eat something, to survive, to feel secure. So it won't help. Of course, it won't help into that. But it makes a lot of difference in a world, in the society, in a family, in a group, to have people who understand Vedanta. Because Vedanta makes a person more accommodative of the other person, understanding about things, and less grabbing. So, because what is there to grab? I am the food. So the person can be able to contribute, focus on contributing to the people who need. So focus on contributing so that people will have less hunger and other problems, basic problems in their lives. So I think in a society where people are less thinking on themselves because they are okay, studying Vedanta, you feel more adequate and you are okay, then you will be able to contribute. In a society where the contribution is a lot, dharma will be protected, happiness for all people will be focused.
Thank you, Gloria ji, for this wonderful session. Larita actually said that as a Brazilian, I can only feel blessed for having your teachings. This is not just a sentiment shared by Brazilians. All over, all of us feel grateful and happy that to have a teacher like you with us. Thank you very much for your sharing of this.
Thank you, Anuradha.
Viewers, we have many more sessions coming tomorrow, which is the final day of this wonderful festival. I'd like to make an announcement. Tomorrow at 7 a.m. India time, Dr. Vishwa Adluri will be speaking on Shishupala's Moksha. So please do tune in, Shankara's reading. Please do watch this session. And there is also going to be in the evening, there is going to be a session again. There is going to be opening remarks, a video addressed by Maha Mahopadhyay Mani Dravida Shastrigal, a valedictory address by Swami Atma Priyananda Maharaj, a vocal performance by P.N. Prabhavati, and of course, a vote of thanks by our own Nitin Sridharji. So please do spare time both in the morning and evening to attend these wonderful sessions.
We have 11 a.m. session also. Koti, please show the flyer.
Yeah, we have 11 a.m. session. For those of you who remember this wonderful movie on Adi Shankara, there will be a panel discussion on this movie, on the Sanskrit movie Adi Shankaracharya. And the panelists, the very well-known panelists include Nagaraja Patoriji, Dhannaji, Totapalli and Ujjwal Rajput. So please attend this session at 11 a.m. India time. So there are 3 sessions, one at 7 a.m., 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. Besides these, I'd also make a few more announcements. Indic Academy is pleased to announce a course called How to Attain Moksha. And this is going to be conducted by Kadiresan K. This program runs between June 17th and July 29th, every Thursday, 6:30 p.m. India time. So please do register for this course. And there's one more announcement. Indic Renaissance Fund is pleased to announce a scholarship scheme for 6 selected sadhakas of the Vedanta Sadhaka course conducted by Chinya Mission. So interested parties can apply for this course and also indicate their interest in this scholarship. So the video will play at the end of the session and where you can get more details. Thank you very much and see you all tomorrow morning.